If you want Colts talk all year long, you're in the right place.
Fires upfield into the end zone. It is caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown. He's going to fire upfield. It's broken up. Tipped and intercepted by the Colts.
This is the official Colts podcast, giving you an updated look at what's new with the Horseshoes.
Colts have it. Interception. 2 seconds left, and the Colts are going to win.
In the Indiana Union Construction Industry radio studio, let's get the podcast started.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome to the official Colts podcast, brought to you by Wynn Las Vegas. The Thursday crew happens upon you once again. Casey Vallier, the legendary Bill Brooks. I'm Matt Taylor. Sherry's behind the scenes on the ones and twos, making us look nice and pretty. You got a tall task there, Sherry, here on YouTube.
Yes, she does.
But we are behind the audio wall, if you will, on the Colts Audio Network. So thanks, everybody, for joining us in that regard as well. We got a monster game and a monster podcast here. We got the 7-5 Colts. We got the 6-6 Cincinnati Bengals coming up in Week 14 of the NFL season. And we also have Tony Brown coming up on this podcast as well. Mr. Special Teams, a part of that enormous game for the Colts in the third phase with, I'm calling it 2 block punts, technically 1 block punt, a return for a touchdown by Grant Stewart, and then technically, as far as the stats go, a forced fumble recovery on a punt. We'll get into that with Tony Brown and how he views it himself, making a great play coming off the edge there. But, fellas, we lead off here with 4-down territory, our top 4 storylines heading into this Week 14 battle on the banks of the Ohio River. We just talked about it. Here where the Colts are on a 4-game winning streak. The Colts are the only team in the AFC right now that has a 4-game heater. The Bengals are coming off a Monday Night Football thriller. Both of these teams actually coming off overtime wins. Monday Night Football, Mr. Jake Browning leads the Bengals to a win against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And, Bill, have you ever seen one game change the complexion of another game the week after, with the Jaguars losing and then the Bengals all of a sudden coming back from the dead in terms of their playoff life and their hopes, if you will? One game.
I can't remember a game that's
swung so much
on one night, Monday Night Football game, where, you know, the Jacksonville Jaguars, if they win that game, they set themselves up pretty good for the rest of the season. But Cincinnati played well because, you know what, they're playing for their playoff lives right now. So for them to win and for Jacksonville to lose, I mean, it just changes everything in the AFC South right now.
Well, I mean, you say that. I mean, think about it from Jacksonville's perspective. They would go to 9-3 and would be in a tie among the top in the AFC.
Exactly.
Not only you lose, you see Trevor Lawrence get banged up.
Yes.
Christian Kirk now has to have surgery. They're expected him to be gone throughout the rest of the season. He may be able to return if they make a deep playoff run. So there's a lot that went into that game, and not to mention what Cincinnati did, where I would say a lot of people kind of wrote them off when Joe Burrow was hurt.
Yes.
Then Jake Browning out of nowhere comes out and completes 85% of his passes over 350 yards, and you're like, hey, wait a minute here. So, yeah, it was a huge game, and, I mean, you're spot on with that, Matt. I'm sure it's recency bias where we can't remember something that this happened, but it does seem crazy that just the flip of what you thought would happen has changed a lot.
I mean, that's the first down on our 4-down territory here. I mean, it is. It's crazy, the complexion of this game changing on one result, and we had to wait until the final game of Week 13 to see it happen that way. I mean, here the Colts are 7-5. The Bengals are 6-6. If the Bengals win on Sunday, both teams would have the same record, obviously, but then the Bengals would obviously have the head-to-head tiebreaker over the Colts and would leap up or jump up in the pecking order in the AFC playoff standings. And the Bengals, listen, they are not at all dead. They are not at all, their playoff hopes are not at all washed away right there in the river there in Ohio. I mean, there are 3 7-5 teams right now. You've got the Colts, you got the Steelers, and you have the Browns. They play all 3 of them in their final 5 games. They play them all, so they completely feel like the Colts, where they've got their playoff hopes and their destiny in their own hands if they can, take control and take care of their own business there with Mr. Jake Browning, who we'll talk about coming up in just a second. But as I said, both teams had to play extra time. Certainly, Cincinnati had an extra day to do it, had to wait an extra day to do it on Monday Night Football. Bill, when you played overtime games, how do you feel the next week? I mean, can you describe the toll that extra 7-8 minutes had on you physically, and who might have the edge going into this game, knowing both teams did indeed have to play overtime?
A lot of times you wouldn't think 7 or 8 minutes is that long to play a football game, but it actually is pretty long. And a lot of times what happens after that 7 or 8 minutes the next day or later on that week, you just feel a little sluggish.
Yeah.
You know, your legs, for a receiver, your legs feel a little heavy. You just can't move as fast sometimes, so you're hoping to get some rest. And I think, you know, from a physical standpoint, I think if you look at it right now, the coach should have the advantage. But I'm pretty much banking on that the Bengals coaches will, hey, we're going to give these guys a break. Yeah. Take something off their feet, rest their feet, rest them a little bit, still go through practice, but be a very light practice so they won't have to, tax their body so much, so they'll be ready to play on Sunday.
Well, and to that, with the overtime period, it's not that the first 4 quarters aren't important.
Right.
But it's just so heightened in overtime because one first down could change things. One big penalty changes things. One big play. I mean, we saw it with the Alec Pierce bomb that Gardner Minshew threw last week. Was such a huge play, and it's all just, heightened a little bit more. So, yeah, it's 7-8 minutes, but it's 7-8 minutes. They're just a little bit more of you're maybe going 120% compared to the 105 you were going before.
Exactly. And since Cincinnati played on Monday, so it should hurt them a little bit more. But like I said, I'm thinking that the Bengals coaches will give them some time off and so they can rest and be ready to go.
Yeah, and that's where we're taping this on Thursday. That's why the Colts on Wednesday held a walkthrough to keep guys fresh. I mean, you're late in the season anyways. Then you play overtime. It's really important to give guys as much rest going into a huge game as possible. All right, that was first down. Here's second down. Grover Stewart is back. The big Grove returns, and he's been reinstated from his 6-game suspension. We knew about his violation of the NFL's PED policy. And here are the stats with and without Grover Stewart. I'm sure you've seen, I'm sure you've heard all about this. Here it is one more time for context. With Grover Stewart in the lineup this year, rushing defense giving up 3.7 yards per carry, 113 rushing yards per game. Not bad, but the Colts have had some elite performances stopping the run this year, primarily with number 90 in the lineup. Without him, in 6 games, 4.7 yards per, 153 yards on average given up. The Colts have allowed at least 125 rushing yards in 6 straight games. First time that's happened to the Colts since 2006. We remember the regular season up and down nature of that season in terms of the defense. Now, they got to figure it out in the playoffs. They won the Super Bowl that year, so maybe that's a good omen here with Grover Stewart coming back.
But if that's the case, hey, I'm all right with that.
Yeah, sign me up for that. But Grover said on Wednesday, hey, I'm ready. I wasn't injured. I wasn't banged up. I just got pinched a little bit. And we don't need to get into that. He's very remorseful, and it's one of those things that happens, and you move on. You learn from it. You grow. Everybody learns a lesson from what happened to Grover Stewart in terms of the intake into his body there. But no pitch count, no limitations at all for Grover Stewart playing the number 32 rush offense from the Cincinnati Bengals on Sunday. How do you think this all plays out, Bill?
Well, hopefully it plays out well for the Colts, having Big Grove back there to, stop the run. Not that the Bengals have this great running game, but don't get me wrong. When you have Joe Mixon back there, he still can be a game breaker. He can be a game breaker, so don't take him lightly just because they're last in the league in rushing per game at 82.5 yards per game. That doesn't make a big difference at all, because once you start playing the game, things change. So I think it's going to be important and imperative for the Colts to be alert for Joe Mixon and the running game. Just make sure that you stop them and put all the pressure on the quarterback. Let's see if he can do it again now. He did pretty well last week, the quarterback, Browning did, but let's see if he can do it again and then put some pressure on them by hopefully stopping the run and hopefully having Grover back will help that cause for the Colts.
Here's a question for both of you. I'm just playing devil's advocate here because Grover's coming back. We know about the woes and being able to stop the run. But in that time, the pass rush has been on fire.
Yes.
Right? The sack numbers, the pressures have just been lighting up the box score here. In the last 5 games, the Colts have 21 sacks, and they have, 4 straight sacks, or I should say 4 sacks in 5 straight games, 6 sacks in back-to-back games for the first time since 1984. Again, hypothetical, or I should say devil's advocate question to both of you. Casey, you go up first. Just throwing it out there. Any worry about the pass rush dropping off with Grover coming back?
That is a concern. It is one of those things because the way that this through these 6 games, that's where the pass rush has really, started to find its ground and its footing.
And it's also come from the inside, too, where Grover plays.
And that's where my big thing is from the inside. You have seen, a lot of that pressure, too. And
Buckner, Eric Johnson, they're getting there.
And Grover is not, we're not saying he's not a pass rusher.
Yeah.
Grover can affect, all of that. But, he is a really impactful run stopper. So it's going to be interesting to see. But the one thing that I will say, playing devil's advocate on that, is I think...
What do you even call that?
I don't know.
Advocate on top of the advocate? Or what are we advocating now?
Devil advocate squared?
Negatives here.
Devil advocate squared?
Right. But I think the pass rush the confidence level has been so high that I don't think you're going to see a fall off because guys like Sampson, Dio, Quiddy, they're all seeing everything they've been working to start to really pay off the last handful of weeks. So I think that confidence level is still going to be so high that they're saying, you know what, the interior where we're getting some of that may not be there, but we can get it from elsewhere. So we know what Buckner can do. Buckner's still going to be able to impact the quarterback. We have seen, some guys step up in Taven Bryan, Eric Johnson, Adetomiwa, Adebare. So we will still probably see a good rotation in there. So I think there's going to be your spots. So I understand the concern. I think it's one of those things where we have to see how it's impacted. But I'm never going to say that having number 90 it's a detriment at all because the impact that Grover has, and we definitely want to see him back in the lineup.
Don't underestimate a player's fresh legs coming back. Grover having fresh legs, being ready to play, probably wants to go out there and say, hey, you know what, I'm back, guys. I want to get involved in this, what you guys have been doing lately. You guys have been playing well, doing a good job, winning some football games. Now I want to contribute myself. So fresh legs, he'll probably be hyped up for the game. So I expect Grover to play well this week against Cincinnati.
It was funny. On Wednesday, they asked, are you going to be on any pitch count? He said, no, I'm playing every snap. Coach, I'm ready. Let's go. All of them. I'm ready to go.
100%.
But Gus Bradley mentioned that this week about how getting Grover back, it's almost like adding a free agent.
Yeah.
I
think it's a first-round draft.
Right. and that's what my thought was. I was like, this isn't a free agent. I mean, this is like going out and targeting in a trade deadline deal a guy that's going to help you.
It's like if you're this is like if you're the Reds, all right, we're not supposed to be contending. Let's go get an ace.
Here we go.
And Grover Stewart is the ace against the run.
100%. Grover Stewart is such a key
small market baseball comparison there, right?
And like you said, I mean, he wasn't injured. So this is 6 weeks where, he wasn't injured, but you're never 100% healthy. So that's 6 weeks he was able to get his body right and everything. So it does kind of have a positive impact, definitely getting him back right now.
Yes.
All right, let's go to third down. Topic here is battle of the backups. I love this. The NFL put this out there the other day, and it just sort of smacked me in the face. I mean, how could I forget that Jake Browning and Gardner Minshew have actually squared off against one another before in college. It was Washington versus Washington State in the Apple Cup. 2018, right? I think it's either the day before Thanksgiving or the weekend after Thanksgiving, that rivalry there on the West Coast. The Browning was the starting quarterback at Washington, Minshew the starter at Washington State. So let's find out who is Jake Browning, because a lot of us, and I'll raise my hand, kind of forgot
I'm right behind
Jake Browning
right
and
there.
had to say to myself, who is this freaking guy? Like, this guy is balling out. So let's get indoctrinated on Jake Browning if you're playing catch up just like us here. So Browning originally came into the league as an undrafted free agent signee in 2019. Despite having unbelievable numbers and an unbelievable career at Washington, he's the all-time winningest quarterback in the history of the Pac-12. Led Washington to the college football playoff in 2016, set all kinds of records there for the Huskies and their program, but went undrafted. First 2 years was on the Minnesota practice squad, got cut at the end of the preseason in 2021, then got signed by the Bengals right after that. So in 2021 and 2022, spent those seasons on the Bengals practice squad. Then this year beat out Trevor Siemian to be Joe Burrow's backup. The first 11 games, he's getting ready, and then called it into action to start 2 weeks ago against Pittsburgh. Burrow got banged up on a Thursday nighter, had to come in short order to play the Ravens. Obviously, they didn't win any of those games. And then the playoff hopes have taken a dive, and here he comes. He says, boys, put it all on me.
I'm ready.
I'm good to go. And so he has made 2 starts at any NFL level or any kind of football level, I should say, since the Rose Bowl in 2019. And all he did last week was throw for 354 yards, complete 86% of his passes, becoming the first undrafted rookie ever, or not undrafted rookie, but the first undrafted player ever to put up those kinds of numbers in his first NFL win on prime time, Monday Night Football against the Jaguars, the heavily favored Jacksonville Jaguars, and he did it with calm, ease, and poise.
On the road.
Yeah, on the road. Like, how impressed are you by this guy, and how much new life does he give the Bengals here?
I was highly impressed by his performance against the Jacksonville Jaguars on Monday night because you're throwing the ball 37 times. You haven't really played a lot of football. You complete 32 of those passes.
Yeah.
32 of those passes.
Yeah.
Didn't seem like he was panicking. Just seemed calm, cool. You throw for over 300 yards, no turnovers. Well, not by him, I would say, not by Browning. But he did a remarkable job. I mean, especially after coming off the previous week where he didn't play so well, you didn't know what you're going to really get out there. But as you say, Mate, on primetime TV, Monday night against a division leader in Jacksonville Jaguars on the road in a hostile environment.
With your season hanging in the balance.
Yes, playoff implications are very important for that game for them.
Yeah.
And they come out and win in overtime. I mean, give the young man credit.
He's 27.
Yeah. But
it's crazy.
It's crazy, but the young man did a nice job. Yeah. And for him to be so calm and cool out there, it shows a lot about him.
I would assume that you both watched Monday night very similar to the way that I was, because I kind of like the Monday night game when you're playing that one of those teams, because it's like your first taste of them, and you get the full night to watch all of it. I mean, I watched every single snap. I watched pregame. I watched because for Jacksonville, it was like their first Monday Night Football game in Jacksonville since
2011.
I mean, it had been forever. So it was like all this hype over. And for the Bengals, they weren't on Monday night very often either. It's like their first win on Monday night since the night. All this lead up to it, and I was expecting, I was expecting to watch Doug Peterson and the Jags roll.
Yep.
And early on, I just kept saying, wow, Jake Browning doesn't look that bad. And instead of saying that throughout the game, I kept going, wow, who is Jake Browning?
By the fourth quarter, you're saying this guy's good.
Why is this guy taking so long to get his shot?
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what you see in the NFL. We see it every single week that a lot of these guys, you just got to give them an opportunity. And for Jake Browning, clearly, I mean, you talk about the college pedigree. In high school, he set a national record for touchdowns thrown. I mean, he threw 92 touchdown passes as a senior in high school. 92. Now, this is no stab at my alma mater, Noblesville High School up north. I don't know if they've thrown 92 touchdown passes in the history of that high school. When I was there, I mean, we scored like 6 touchdowns. You know, we didn't throw the football. It was a lot of running.
Alma mater of the year right here. Yeah, give him the award.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, those are mind-blowing numbers. So the guy clearly has the talent. He put it on full display on Monday.
And I think what I came out of Monday night with, in terms of my feelings on Cincinnati, is that with Browning, I mean, what I'm about to say is going to shortchange him, and I don't mean it to, but he proved to be incredibly competent.
Very much so.
And in control, right? I mean, so, again, that I think he's much better than that, but that's what we were all wondering about him since being, taken by Minnesota as an undrafted player in 2019. So with that, I mean, I think their offense is still just as dangerous with him at quarterback. I mean, he threw for more yards in a game this year than Joe Burrow did.
Yep.
His completion percentage on Monday was higher than any game this year, completion percentage-wise, with Joe Burrow. Jamar Chase has had better numbers with Jake Browning this year than with Joe Burrow. All right, so like this Burrow bum, get him out of here, run him out of town.
You just paid him. Let's go ahead and get rid of him.
I'm not going to go there yet.
We're
Joe Burrow's pretty
saying
special.
that in jest, but I'm saying with Chase and Higgins and Boyd and Mixon, and Chase Brown, the rookie running back, being able to show some things. I mean, I think that this offense has kind of been up and down all year because of injuries to Boyd. Chase has been banged up a little bit. Mixon's been banged up. Obviously, the quarterback shuffling with Joe Burrow. I think right now you still have to feel like this is still an elite offense based on what Browning showed on Monday Night Football.
Well, he has weapons to use. Yeah. He definitely has a lot of weapons to use, so that helps him a lot as far as knowing that, hey, look, I don't have to do it by myself as a quarterback. I can get the ball into these guys' hands and let them do some special things out there on the football field. So he has weapons, and he has maybe one of the best trio of receivers in the National Football League on his side. So that helps him a lot. And Mixon, like I said earlier, he is a good back. He's a back that can be a game wrecker himself by just running hard and also catching the ball in the backfield. So, you know what, he has some special talent around him, so it should make it easier for him to play football.
Well, and, you know, this kind of goes back to the running game. We talked about, you know, how porous they were at 32nd. But I think ultimately it was because they had guys like Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, and they said that's what we got to use. And I think that's where you saw a little bit on Monday. They ran the ball well, but also did you see how Joe Mixon was involved in the passing game? So they have kind of that extension of the run in Joe Mixon. And I think you might see a more balanced offense out of Cincinnati with Jake Browning, it might be a benefit to their team. So, you know, you look at the numbers, 32nd in the league in rushing. I kind of look at that as, you know, that's before the newly looked Bengals of what we're going to see moving forward. Now, I'm not going to say they're all of a sudden going to jump up and be a top 15 running team. Yeah. But I think what you saw out of, you mentioned Chase Brown, the rookie on Monday, he gives them a little difference in what you have in Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon's kind of the banger. He's going to run for those hard yards. Brown kind of has that explosiveness. That's kind of the first time we've seen him. So he adds another dimension to that running game. So it's going to be very interesting because you can talk about all their weapons on the outside. I mean, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, that duo right there might be among the best. And Tyler Boyd has done it for such a long time in Cincinnati. So you're not at all wrong when you look at if Jake Browning is competent, as you mentioned, Matt, they have the weapons to be dynamic. So it's definitely something you can't overlook what that offense looks like because there are a lot of really explosive players.
All right, let's go to fourth down real quick. Let's go over to the Colts offense, talk about Michael Pittman Jr. And, Bill, I got to get your thoughts on this first and foremost because you're in the Ring of Honor for a reason, and Michael Pittman Jr. is playing like a Ring of Honor caliber player right now based on what he's producing because he's on a different level right now. 11 catches the other day against Tennessee, 105 yards, the game-winning touchdown. Right now he ranks second in the NFL on targets. He's fourth in catches. He's been targeted at least 10 times in 8 games this season. He has 9 games this season with at least 8 catches. That leads the NFL, ranked second in Colts single-season franchise history. He's also racked up at least 8 catches in 5 straight games, which is tied for the second longest streak in franchise history. So right now, this offense, at least in the passing game, it is Pittman, it is Downs, and then it's like the Heartbreakers or the Pips or just a good supporting cast, if you will, here, if you want to make that rock and roll analogy. What have you seen, Bill, from your standpoint as a Ring of Honor former wide receiver that played at such a high level in this league? What is it about Pittman's game right now that you can recognize in terms of him taking it from here to here metaphorically?
From a physical standpoint, he's out there just kind of, just doing what he wants to do. He's running routes, moving people out of the way, being physical, and being in the right place at the right time. So, I mean, he's out there just playing extremely well. The thing that impressed me most is that he wants to be the guy. Mm-hmm. He's going out there wanting to be the guy. I want to be the guy that makes it. He's wanted
that for a long time.
Yes, I want to be the guy that makes a difference on this team, especially on an offensive side of the ball, where when it's 3rd and 5, give me the ball. Or when we're in the 4th quarter and we have to have this last drive, throw me the ball. I want the ball. And that says a lot about him. He's not scared of the big moment. Yeah. So that's why I've seen him grow, where he's not scared of the big moment, where he wants the ball, and he wants to be the leader out there on the football field. I think we all know he's a very physical guy, and he wants to play physical. I think the more physical the game is, the better he plays, and that's what he wants to do. So I'm highly impressed with Pittman's performance this year. He's done a tremendous job being a leader, not just in the wide receiver room, but on that offense as well.
I loved his comment that he made after the game on Sunday where I feel so confident right now that I can just take an Uber to the game, get there 10 minutes before, put my shoes on, and I'm ready to go out and dominate. And that's what I feel like.
That's a good feeling.
Please don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that, Pitt. But I mean, I think what he is saying, like it's like
you're like a hardcore fan. Uber. Where are you headed?
Yeah, right.
Lucas Oil Stadium.
Yeah, Lucas Oil, huh? Watch this. Please don't do that.
It's like we have said with Matt Gay, who when he gets in the stadium, he's in range.
Yeah.
Like Pittman, it's like. Once he steps inside the infield boundary, I mean, the guy is ready to take over the game, and that confidence. it continues to grow I mean, it's almost like, oh, he did this last week. What's he going to do next week? I mean, he went out and had 11 catches last week, and it was like every time you needed the play, Pitman was there. And one of the things that I'm really excited for, I don't want to jump ahead anything here, but what we saw out of Alec Pierce, adding that wrinkle to the offense, I really think that's going to help everybody else. And more importantly, it's going to continue to help and give maybe Pitman a little bit more separation, give him a little bit more opportunity for other things. So, I mean, the way Pitman is playing, you're spot on. I mean, he is playing at a caliber where you could look at in the future and say he's definitely Ring of Honor worthy through his first 4 years.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. You know, you talk about pace and all of that. He's on pace for a career-high 1,200 receiving yards. But to your point, Bill, just in overtime, whether it's third down or you're stacked up in your own territory or you need to play in the red zone, it's Michael Pittman Jr. I mean, the catch with 2 guys draped all over him. 3 guys have their paws on the football, but it's Pitman muscling it away from 2 other guys with the great hands. He is making a case to be, I think, one of the more not underrated wide receivers in the NFL, but I
not
think
talked about enough.
Not talked about enough players at his position, and it's a contract year for him. We got a lot of time to talk about that coming up in the offseason about Michael Pittman's future here with the Colts. But right now, the future is bright with 5 games to go, and he and Gardner Minshew are in the zone together with the targets and the catches and the synergy and just kind of that unspoken language they have in the passing game. Another guy that is raising the bar on special teams, that's number 38 for the Colts. You know him. You love him. It is Tony Brown. He does the dirty work. He's a class guy. He's a character guy. He's full of personality. He's full of energy. He had that, we're calling it a block, but it's technically a forced fumble on the Titans punt formation, setting up the Colts with a recovery and some more points there in the second half, trying to get back into that game against the Tennessee Titans. So Tony Brown joined us earlier today here on the Official Colts Podcast. You don't want to miss this one. Joining us in studio, the man, the myth, the legend. It is number 38 for your Indianapolis Colts. Tony Brown is with us here. Tony, thanks so much for the time, man. How are you?
No problem. I'm doing well. Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely. So take us through. We have to start. There's so much to get into with you because you're such a great player, a fascinating guy. But take us through we're calling it a block. We're calling it a block. I don't care what you call it. I don't care what the NFL calls it. That is a block punt. Technically, I guess, a forced fumble there on Ryan Stonehouse. But take us through that play. You had 3 special teams tackles. You had a forced fumble, but the big play was that one on the second block punt, if you will, for the Colts in that game in the second half. How did you time it up so well on your blitz off the edge, if you will, getting after the punter?
So it's called a corner roll, right? We had it dialed up against this team who has shown their gunner. They have a gunner roll, a gunner motion, where they motion the wide gunner on the wide field to give him a little momentum, to get him momentum going down the field. So we noticed that they had a certain hand movement whenever they're finna signal it, and they didn't ever really look to the other side of the field. So me using my my awareness, my instincts, and my speed, we thought that it would make sense for me to corner roll opposite their motion. So off the hand motion, I timed it up throughout the week. I got a block point, which was like in 9.5 yards. I worked it like every maybe 2-3 days. I worked the timing of it off the snap, where I needed to come off the edge, where the block point was. And so just whenever I saw it, I timed it perfectly. I gave myself just enough room off the ball so that if I did move forward sooner than the ball snapped, I wouldn't be offsides also.
Right.
So like that, all of that went together with me just being Johnny on the spot and just being really mindful in that moment and timing it perfectly. And the funny thing is about that play, so going over it, I'm big on like visualization and like meditating. Like every time I visualize myself making a play, I saw myself getting there at the kick point, like at the block point, right? So when I'm coming off the edge scot-free, I'm like, this is
I've already seen this.
Right? Listen, not only that, but I didn't see myself getting there that early, right? Because I got there before it even got to his foot.
Right.
So when I watched it on film, I'm running. in the moment I'm running, I'm like, yo, I'm there kind of early. Like, hold on, I kind of got to slow down a little bit.
Yeah,
Because
right,
I actually
right.
had to block it like behind myself a little bit to tap the ball.
Right.
And then I look at it, I'm not big on what coulda, shoulda, but like I could have like just grabbed the ball and scored.
Yeah, you literally
know what I mean? But,
yeah.
But like positive play for the team. I forgot the punter's last name, but
Stonehouse, yeah.
Stonehouse, I do want to
Sure.
just give my condolences to him and his family. Hopefully, he has a speedy recovery. But hey, good play for the team though.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, listen, you're exactly right, and well said by you. I mean, that's just a football player making a football play, though. But I mean, going back to what you said though on the lead up to that play. So did I hear you right that you had sort of the freedom built in to do that, to make that read,
Yes.
and to kind of instinctually do that on your own within the scheme on the punt block?
Yes. So whenever we noticed that they had their off tight end player on the ball and their opposite gunner off the ball, it was a check that we were supposed to have. Whenever I saw it, whenever we saw it, it was a check that we were supposed to have. And oddly enough, not oddly enough, but crazy enough, right after the first punt, I guess they got on the ball quickly thinking that they were going to get us in a position where, okay, we just got a block punt, we got to just get the ball off.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for them, we had a check ready for that.
Yeah.
And so it just
cat and
ended
mouse
up.
game there, right?
Right.
So I mean, when you saw that happening, were you like, oh,
it's on.
watch this?
Yeah, it's on. I said, oh my God. I said, listen, because they got to the ball quickly. I'm like, yo, I can't believe they're finna do this. It's finna be on the block. It's finna be on the block. I cannot believe they're finna do this right now. Because like I said, they got on the ball quickly. So I'm like, yo, oh my gosh, they're on the ball. Oh, it's a block. It's blocked.
Now, Matt mentioned it earlier that we're calling it a block here. I know that Brian Mason spoke to the media this week, how he's trying to talk with the NFL to make sure that it is a block and not a forced fumble. I know it doesn't matter, but in your eyes, that's a blocked punt, right?
In my eyes, it is a block punt.
Okay.
Because like that's what it was.
intent was the punt.
He is the kicker. He's not a quarterback. He wasn't trying to run the ball. He was attempting to kick.
Right.
And I just got there earlier than it got to his foot.
Now,
Yeah.
one of the things we have noticed, I'm sure Matt can attest to this over the last handful of years, special teams, it is, not saying it's different other places, but here it has always been a key part of this team. And it really it involves that buy-in. And clearly, I mean, you're one of those core special teams guys. You have a role on defense as well, but just talk about that buy-in. I mean, it seems like year in, year out, there are a handful of guys that are, fan-worthy names that you recognize as special teams guys.
That is definitely a Colts culture. Whenever I was at other teams, whenever we played the Colts, we knew it was going to be a game of like the teams is going to be big. This is a team that prides themselves on the special teams players and the play of all the core special teams. So, like whenever I got here, like coming from Alabama, to me there's a sense of pride and legacy to keep things going if you're a part of an organization. So me being a part of this organization, I have a sense of pride myself to not be that crew of guys that drop the totem, that let the fire go out, let the flame of the special teams go out. Yeah. Me being a core guy, and I think that that's the mentality here because there are still some guys that were a part of that legacy of it being continued. E.J. Speed, Zaire Franklin, Kenny Moore, all these guys were special teams guys that made a difference on the team, and they're still here on the team. So those guys, along with Joe Hastings, they help communicate to us like the standard at which we're gonna have to keep rolling. Me, Grant, Nick Cross, Shegu Alubi, like it's a standard that we're not gonna let go away. And especially with Mason, his first year here, it's like him being a rookie coach and me being a veteran player. I take the responsibility of helping him as much as I can with my play, with being a leader on and off the field, so that we can all come together to keep it going.
Yeah. Now, going along with that, like you said, the standard of excellence within special teams, since you've been here, was Bubba Ventrone. We knew how that went. I mean, just great special teams, covering kicks, returning kicks, blocking punts, all the touchdowns. But Brian Mason came from Notre Dame, and they had a boatload of block punts for touchdowns last year with the Irish. It was really great to see him get two in one game with the Colts. What do you like about Coach Mason, and how, as you said, kind of collaborative is it with him taking input from outside resources, putting a special teams game plan together?
Coach Mason, when you're in this business and you get into you're ascending up the level of your own personal totem of manhood, of your career, of which he's ascending up his own personal totem right now, getting an NFL job, head special team coach job, there's certain levels of ego, right, that you have to deal with in the NFL team. And so, you never know what type of ego button or what type of ego token someone could get going up the totem, right? And just Brian Mason, he's a very humble coach. Like he has the wherewithal to understand and be able to listen, and then not think that he knows everything, of which a coach could assume, like, hey, I got here based off what I know, so I'm gonna continue to do what I'm doing based off what I know. Like, you're just a player, stay a player. Yeah. But he's flexible enough to give guys the lane and the alley and the chair, the microphone to speak to him, to be open to ideas, to be open to, hey, this is how I've made blocks. I understand that this is how you've coached blocks, and to meet somewhere in between. And as a player, it's a push and pull with your own personal techniques based off your strengths and weaknesses, and the techniques being applied by a coach based off his knowledge of his like defense or special teams or blocking schemes, right? So I think that leading up to this game and leading up this far in the season through OTAs, I think he's done an amazing job of game planning things based off of our skill set, based off of what we've told him, based off of learning on the move of the difference between the NFL and college. I think he's done an amazing job. I think he's an amazing coach. I think he's going to do well going forward also. Mm-hmm. And I cannot not mention Joe Hastings, which is Joe Hastings is like, I think he's the best assistant special team coach in the league. Sure. As far as just like, he was a player. He brings that level of excitement. He connects the two, probably behind the scenes with Mason and with players and just with things that go unseen. So I think Joe is definitely an unsung hero also.
There's no doubt. Yeah, good point right there.
Now, you mentioned earlier some of those guys who, started on special teams, whether that's Zaire Franklin, Kenny Moore, E.J. Speed. You see them, especially defensively, they're key defensive players. I want to go back to week 1. Kenny Moore suffers an injury. And, you have to be Johnny on the spot, as you mentioned. You got to be ready for anytime your number is called. And there you are. You've got to prepare all week as a special teamer, but you've got that side. You got to be defensively sound. Right. And there you are in the right place, the right time to get that interception. Just talk about what that weekly grind is like, to be kind of doing two things every week, preparing, but you have to be ready when your number's called.
That's like the dark side of the moon in the NFL, being a second teamer or a backup to a starter, because you have to get the mental reps instead of the physical reps as much.
Right.
And so, but there can be no drop off, right, because in this league,
the expectation's there.
Right. There is no level of excuses for, hey, no. So it's like, it's a level of awareness and being able to stay locked in. And I think that play was just like, I think it was a blessing of because it was a tip ball. So I think it was a blessing and not only was it a tip ball, but they were in 13 personnel, and we hadn't ran nickel against 13 personnel the whole week or even in training camp. So it was just I think it was just a blessing to me that I was doing things right, because I do a lot of things behind the scenes that aren't glitz and glammy, that aren't seen, but I'm a firm believer in you got to plant the right seeds. Whatever seeds you plant, you're gonna sow whatever you plant, whether that's resentment, negative. So I could have been resentful that I'm not getting these plays. I could have been resentful planting these negative seeds of I should be in, I should be this. But instead, I'm an encourager. I'm a guy who was there for you for whatever you need, whether you're a backup, starter, whatever. Yeah. And I think that was just the fruit that came from that.
And that's one thing I want to go to, because talking with these guys in the locker room, it doesn't take long before Tony Brown's name comes out of their mouth as one of the guys that, is in their corner, always pump them up. You look at this cornerback room, very youthful. Guys like Darrell Baker Jr. having to do a lot in year 2. And then Jalen Jones, a late round rookie. What have you done to help these young guys in the growth that we've seen out of this secondary to this point?
I think based on my history throughout the NFL, I came in as a young corner, undrafted. I started for the latter part of the season, my rookie year with Green Bay. And in that group, we had Kevin King. We had just brought in Bashard Breeland. We had Tramon Williams, Jair Alexander, first-round pick. So this was a very talented group, and I ended up starting throughout the end of the year. So, and I've been released 4 times. I've been around 5 different groups of corners, 5 different coaches. Mm-hmm. So just based off my everything my experiences, I think I helped the guys a lot in just keeping them keeping them where their feet are and not allowing the frustrations of being a rookie, the frustrations of a new coach, the frustrations of a new environment to intertwine and affect their performance, because that's one of the biggest things. You got a lot of guys that could be playing in the NFL, that could be starters, but there are outside things that affect their performance in which doesn't allow them to get on the field. So I'm just that guy that the rookies can, like, I can keep you aligned with whatever you told me that you want to do this year. You know, I can assess I can see if like something the coach said has affected them in a way that, you know, they're trying to hide it, and I can be there to, hey, this is what you should be doing, but hey, just look at me. It's not going to be the end of the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, of course, there's a technique that you might not agree with, but this is how it goes. Of course, you're not going to win every rep, but this is how it goes. It's not the end of the world. I try to keep them connected to the realities of being an NFL player, which is that it's all a blessing. Like, every day is a blessing. When you've been cut, you have a better understanding of how much it means to you. So I try to keep guys attached to that. Hey, how much does this mean to you? And if it means enough to you, then you won't be affected by things that are kind of trivial after the fact.
You're like too smart, too wise to be hanging out with us.
Yeah, this is great.
I can tell you that right now. That answer's way too intelligent. All right? You're going to have to dumb it down for us here, Tony. Well, I mean, you talked about not having an ego. I mean, that is you. I mean, you just love ball. You're a great teammate. Well, we'll end with this. You're just unapologetically Tony Brown. And I mean that in a great way, because guys gravitate towards you. You're a great character. You have a great personality. And, Sherry, I don't know if we can zoom in here. I'm kind of putting you on the spot. But you never wear shoes unless you're playing in a football game, right? You're never wearing cleats or shoes unless you have to. So there you are, barefoot.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm getting ready for games, and I'm kind of scouting out who's out there beforehand. And I'm watching the kickers warm up, you know, seeing what their distance is and the weather conditions and stuff like that. But also about an hour and a half before every game, there's Tony Brown barefoot with his shirt off. And I'm like, this dude is the toughest guy that the Colts have on their roster. And it could be, 95 degrees in August for a preseason game, or it could be like negative whatever in December and January getting ready for a playoff game. Well, take us through that. I mean, where does that come from, Tony Brown?
So 2 parts. So it's a 2-part, right? I'll address the shirt off part first.
And your fashion sense is on point.
Oh,
as
yeah.
well.
Right.
Well, that's a whole other podcast.
Right. So I'll address the shirt off one. So the shirt off thing it started in Green Bay.
Yeah.
Right. Actually, prior to Green Bay, it started like the playoff game of probably the LSU game of my senior year at Alabama. Right. There's this level of there's a level of like aesthetic there's a level of like aesthetic intimidation, right?
Oh, there's no doubt
that I wanted,
especially with you. You look like an Adonis out there. Like you with your shirt off makes me want to go to the gym, or like get on Weight Watchers or something, pal.
Right. So I was maybe 10 pounds heavier in college. Right now I'm like 190 something. I was like 211, 212. So I was a bigger guy, strong fella, right? So whenever we're playing other teams, I'm like, hey, I want to let you guys know I'm putting work in. So that was the mentality in my mind. Like, hey, we're not missing no days. So that was the mentality of me going
I'm gonna
to
be
field,
here for 4 quarters.
Right, with no shirt against these rivals. Hey, bro, we putting this work in. This is what work looks like, right? So moving on to the NFL, I went to Green Bay from Texas, went to Alabama, more southern, hotter type weather. Yeah. So it's Green Bay, I'm trying to figure out like, yo, how can I get used to this cold? Because you cannot play if you feel cold. Yo, it's game over, right? Game over. So I'm like, okay, bet. This is what I'm going to do. I forgot, like I said, I visualized it. That wasn't enough, yo, because that wasn't enough. I said, dog, the best thing I can do is go get as cold as possible prior to the game and then come back in and try to feel a little warmer so I know that I got a level of, I'm warmer than I was.
That's the coldest you can possibly be.
I'm warmer than I was. That's
right. So that's the coldest I could possibly get with no shirt. And it kind of became like a ritual for me, like to walk around the field with no shirt, and I feel comfortable doing that myself now and now for the feet. Right.
All right. Yeah.
So I'm already outside type of guy.
We're halfway there.
Right. I'm an outside type of guy. I'm kind of from the country a little bit. I'm an outside guy.
Yeah.
Right. I I had this inflammation in my heel when I was with the Bengals.
Okay.
And I couldn't figure out where it came from. But shoes were hurting my heel. Like, it was hurting for me to walk. And so I just stopped wearing shoes. Like, whenever I was at the house, I was like, I feel better without wearing shoes. So I started not wearing shoes. And I realized, like, the padding of your foot is tougher than you think it is. I've stepped on things, stepped on sharp things, and it heals quickly. And I felt better, and my foot felt stronger. And it made me kind of look up and research a little bit, like, well, is shoeless healthy? Is it something that could help me athletically? And it is. Like, we wear closed-toe shoe boxes for the most part of our life, which, like, brings our toes together when they're supposed to be more spread out to activate all the muscles in your foot.
Wow.
Right?
Here we are.
And you got to think about, like, your foot pad as it strikes the ground. If you're not activating certain muscles in your foot, they connect all the way up to the hip.
I'm taking my shoes off right now.
Same thing with a push-up. You imagine doing a push-up with your fingers very close together.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be the same as if your fingers are spread apart.
Wow.
Same thing with your toes. Wow. So I wanted to practice getting my toes where they spread apart more often than not being close together. So that's the two or three part
mind blown.
Yeah, mind behind
Dude, I
me
told
having
you.
no shoes out.
I told you you're way too smart.
You're way too smart for this.
Holy moly!
Wow.
Man, that's amazing. I appreciate you going into that and telling.
No, I appreciate you guys for asking and
That's
want to know
amazing right
because
there.
I had to talk with some people. Because me walking around with no shoes in some places, people, I get all these comments. Hey, that's nasty. XYZ.
Right.
And sometimes it affected me. Like, it affected me sometimes, but it didn't affect me when I realized, like, in my mind, I'm like, yo, I'm doing this for my reasons to better myself, right?
No doubt.
But at the end of the day, I still have to understand that it's not a part of the social norm. The social norm is to wear shoes. No. So when I got an understanding of that, I can deal with it better with people looking at me weird when I have no shoes on.
So it all sandals. Like, sandals, is that
So look.
like a slide, like a Nike slide?
Yeah, this is free marketing, right? Vivo has not paid me no money or nothing. They should, though. Vivo Barefoot should pay me money after this. But so they have barefoot shoes. Vivo Barefoot is a good brand of shoes that I do wear. Sometimes they're wide toe box shoes that are they're very good for what I'm trying to do for if I'm running or doing things. But whenever I don't have a chance to, hey, there's no shoes for TV.
That's right.
I
man.
love it.
It's like Saturday morning on the carpet.
Every Saturday.
Tony Brown right there. We could talk to you for hours on end, have multiple themed podcasts, but we know you got to run. You got the task at hand, the Cincinnati Bengals coming up here in Week 14. Tony, gracious for your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for
good luck,
me.
all right?
Yes, sir. Thank you guys.
That's the greatness of Tony Brown right there on the Official Colts podcast. Well done. We're back in here closing it out. Bill Brooks returns. Casey Vallier. I'm Matt Taylor. Colts and Bengals coming up on Sunday. Let's go rapid fire to close out here, boys, with some welcome. I'm calling this Welcome to the Jungle hot takes.
All right.
Okay.
Cincinnati, Paycor Stadium. The Bengals, right, they call their home field advantage. Affectionately, it's known as the Jungle. And I dug this up. The 5 highest attended home games and 9 of the top 10 in Bengals history have occurred since the start of last year. All right, so they're riding high.
Okay.
They're riding high. They have made the playoffs back-to-back years, AFC Championship game appearances, back-to-back years, 1 Super Bowl appearance. They came up short, but they have won 13 of their last 17 home games dating back to week 16, 2021, including the postseason. So right now they're feeling pretty good. They call it the Jungle. They play Guns N' Roses. Welcome to the Jungle. All right, Casey, I know you're not going to be at the game, but I'm fully prepared to hear that song about 17 times. That's where I'm putting the over-under there. So here's my hot take for you. I still like it. I still like Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses. Does it hold up still, or is it overplayed in sports stadium venues, if you will? What's your hot take on GNR?
I think it still holds up. I think it's it's one of those that I'm with you. I'm sure it's overplayed. Like, if it comes on the radio, I'm probably going to skip it just because I've heard it so many times. But it's one of those songs you hear it. It's like Don't Stop Believing by, you're like, all right, I know it. Yeah, I'm good with this. So, and you got to give, Axl Rose, and he born and with Lafayette or something. So you got to give him a little, Indiana nod. So, yeah, sure. It's a little overplayed, but in that setting, I think it works.
That album came out when you were in the locker room now. Came out in 1987.
Yeah, this wasn't my type of music back in 1987. I've heard the song, believe me. But this wasn't my type of music back in 1987.
You didn't like My Michelle or Anything Goes or Paradise
like
City
that, but I tell you
on
what,
Appetite for Destruction?
I actually like it. I actually like the song when you hear it at stadiums and arenas and things like that. I like it. It gets you excited. It gets you ready to go. That hey, you know what? You're coming into a hostile environment.
Yeah.
We're gonna be hostile here. So you guys got to be ready to play. And as a player, you like it because it's usually you against the world, you against the other team and their fans. So you like it. I said, welcome to the jungle. Yeah, we like that. We are welcoming.
I want to hear you scream, Bill Brooks.
We are coming to the jungle, and hopefully we're going to win this football game. So as a former player, I like to hear it.
There you go. It still holds up, baby. It still holds up. That's my hot take. Hot take number 2, the Bengals uniforms are awesome.
Oh,
I think they're awesome. I love the uniqueness of the helmet.
Agreed.
I know they've got the white helmets.
The white,
yes,
with the Bengal
so
tiger.
sharp.
Yes,
I still think they hold up. I think the Bengals uniforms are top 5 in the NFL. Where do you stand?
I like the white. I like the white on white. The white helmets, the white shirts.
I don't
and the
like
white
that.
pants.
I wish they go back to the orange helmets and the black.
I'm not crazy about
stripes.
I'm not crazy about the orange helmets. Just something about it. I just doesn't do anything for me. But the
think it's
white
awesome.
on white, I love
So
that.
unique.
I love that look.
It's so unique in the NFL.
See, I like all of them. I think their color scheme is perfect. So I think that, all of the uniforms, they all kind of match. So I'm right there with you. I think they're a top 5 for sure.
All right, hot take number 3, Cincinnati chili, Skyline chili. You know what I'm talking about? The spaghetti, the chili, the mound of like the Mount Everest mound of cheddar cheese on top of a coney or a 5-way or a 3-way. What do you think?
I'm gonna bust you guys' bubble.
Uh-oh.
Haven't had it.
Oh, my
I have not had Skyline chili.
Really?
I have not. I really haven't. Since I've been here, I've never had Skyline
After
chili.
this podcast, I know where a Skyline
I
is.
know
It's
you-
about 25 minutes north. We'll go
There-
right to
there-
it.
He can't
I
even
passed
objectively
by-
weigh in.
I passed a number of them, and I just have not stopped and got Skyline chili.
Oh, man.
But how do you think it would taste? Because you either
I
love
love
it
chili. I
or
love
you
chili.
hate it.
I love chili anyway. So
You think it's like the best Midwest
Yeah.
So
delicatessen, if you will, or you're just like, this combination makes no sense. Why do people like this? I'm just saying, like, it's one of those meals that it tastes good every once in a while. Like, it kind of hits the spot, but it's not one of those meals where you want it all the time because it's so heavy and just so unique, I suppose. I don't know.
I have a different take. I think I'm a huge Skyline fan. I like Gold Star. It's the other Cincinnati, rival to Skyline.
Okay.
I like a 5-way. I like the Conies. I even like, they give you little oyster crackers. I'll put some hot sauce on the oyster crackers. I will not do that anywhere else. I won't do that at home. I don't know why.
Yeah.
When I'm there, I do that. But I have a 6-year-old son who would love Sonic, and Sonic's favorite food is a chili dog. So we do chili dogs at home pretty often, and we typically will buy the Skyline chili pre-made chili sauce from Kroger or wherever. So like, we are chili dog fans in the Vallier household. And Bill, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little upset by the never had Skyline.
Well,
I mean, I could go eat Skyline right now.
what makes it so special to you?
I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know what. I mean, I think the chili is really their chili. It's perfect tasting. The cheese. I love cheese. You can never have too much cheese.
Oof.
And, I could almost go with
Classic Midwest.
bigger hot dogs. Like if you get the Coney dogs, the dogs are pretty small, so I could always go for bigger. But I also like a 5-way with the noodles, and the fries are great. I don't know. I can't tell you why I like it, but
Skyline,
I love
a Skyline chili connoisseur over there, huh?
Oh, big fan.
Sherry, yes or no? Thumbs up.
No,
never had it.
Oh,
Sherry
and I, have never had it in here.
Sherry and I on the
You guys can
same,
you guys can fill out
same
the
boat.
expense reports here at lunch. Sherry and Bill, sharing a 5-way right there. A little Coney action at lunch. I like it, fellas. Good stuff right there. Plus, they serve it at halftime in the press box. That's a no-go.
Yeah,
that is an
yeah.
absolute
I'd probably
no-go.
pass on that
Yeah, I would pass on that.
that's
Unless
what
you
you
want
do the day
Gorman doing the
before,
second half
or-
play-by-play.
Yeah, I
That
would
is a
pass on
no-go.
that.
All right, let's just put it at that. Good boss right there. Way to end the podcast with Casey Vallier. Bill Brooks, that's one way to go to close out here. But hot take is it's a huge game for the Colts. It's a huge game for the Bengals. Playoff implications galore in Week 14 on the banks of the Ohio. Kickoff set for 1 o'clock. You can hear it, of course, on our flagship stations in Indianapolis, 97.1 Hank FM, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan, and all over the state, all over Colts country on the Bell Tire Radio Network. For Bill Brooks, Casey Vallier, I'm Matt Taylor. Thanks for hanging out with us today on YouTube and the Colts Audio Network, talking Colts and Bengals. We'll be back next week talking Colts and Steelers. But until then, have a great weekend and go Colts. And thanks for listening to the official Colts podcast, brought to you by Wynn Las Vegas. So long.